One little feature that we can do easily with panoramas is that we can paint maybe on something. We can paint over signs, and when we use this in a scene, it's always there, even in an animation. And that's the beauty of panoramas. And of course, when we do a camera move here, then we can use a panorama here to create the illusion that we have a whole scene around it. Of course, the trees could have a little bit more motion here with wind or so, but that is maybe the downside when you use only an image for this. A whole movie in a panorama form would be here much nicer. Anyway, the idea here is, of course, to introduce you to a very fast way to integrate objects inside of this image, but without getting everything pretty flat. And I want to show you that, but before I go there, I want to explain something in Photoshop. You have seen maybe this panorama because I have explained a long time ago the stitching process, and you see it's in 8-bit, which is finally pretty much the last one that I have used ever in 8-bit, because I was running in so many problems with this format, with color grading and so on, especially when you have here the sun and you have the need maybe for motion blur and depth of field and many other things. You get not the quality out of that. So this is here pretty much my last example in 8-bit, and I want to explain here something that has nothing to do with the bit depth, so I use it here. The channels have here an alpha channel, and everything that is black here now in this alpha channel is pretty much what I can see when I have this in a foreground image, and I have the same image in the background. Sounds a little bit cryptic? Okay, let's have a look. I go here back to my RGB image, and I want to have a copy from that. So nothing has changed, it's exactly the same one. And then I go here with my command, click and create an alpha channel selection here, and I put a layer mask on top of that. Nothing has changed either here. I can switch this on or off. But what I can do now here is, of course, to put something between this layer here, for example. So let's paint something stupid here in, maybe just a donut. So this sits now here exactly between the foreground element, and I show that here when I take the background here away, and this has, of course, the right name at the moment. That's the background, this is the foreground, and I can place stuff between. And the beauty is that I can move this around here now, and I have no problems. It's always exactly foreground and background, and the middle ground is animated. Perfect. And whatever is in the alpha channel will determine what is before or after this layer 1 here. Perfect. So when I animate this now here, I can create an illusion that there's maybe a huge donut spaceship or something like that. And that is exactly the idea that I want to sell here. So before I do this, I trash this here away and I hop over to Cinema 4D. So as we have seen, we had the option to create here 2 layers in Photoshop. And how would that work in Cinema 4D within 360 by 180 degree panorama? For that, I would like to leave the animation camera, and we can switch this off here. And then we can see here this sphere. And for that, I switch off the outside sphere for a moment. And you can see here pretty clearly that we have something here that looks like a sphere, but everything where the alpha channel is black is just not visible here at the moment. And the rule of thumb is, of course, and that's pretty much true for any 360 by 180 degree, the camera is always exactly in the middle. And as long as I do not move the camera from the middle point, from the 0,0 point in this case here, and I'll show you that, it's always stable. And then any sphere that I use with or without alpha channel will have exactly the same information. The size of the sphere is not important. It's only that we have in the foreground a smaller sphere with alpha channel, and then in the outside area in the background a larger sphere. So you can see here the size is 2000 in this case and 60,000 for the outside area. And as I show that here with the default camera, it doesn't work at all when we stay outside of that 0, 0 point. The closer we get to that point, the better it will look like. And I have to use here some shortcuts, the 1 for example, to get this here closer. And that's maybe a long time here too. So I go outside and you can see already where I am. When I switch this on, I'm exactly in the middle point of both spheres, and I can see there's no difference between the inner and the outer circle. So now I can place here, for example, an object inside of this space. Inside means here the space between the inner and the outer sphere. And that gives me the option to get here exactly this border. And when I have created an alpha channel with a very soft border, I have here already something that is pretty much called a light wrap. So I don't have to care about any integration work on this spot here again. And of course it's fast, so we don't have to care too much how it works. I show you that here. Now it's behind this pole, and when I render this, it's nicely behind. And I want to show you that, of course, again from the default camera. And I have to go here out to show you that exactly how it works. So there's my little plane, and there's my inside sphere, and there's the outside sphere. Very nicely done. And the outside sphere can give even to a certain degree reflections on this, and even illumination if it is large enough. It won't have any parallax mistakes in it. Perfect. The next step is, of course, we want to see how it works when we just let go of it. So it flies here and it goes from the building background behind the trees, and nicely done. So, and we have something more here to offer, because in the moment it is behind that tree, we would have a lot of trouble to mix this in compositing application when we have rendered out this plane with motion blur and this foreground with motion blur. There's a lot of half transparency between, and to mix this very nicely is not simple. So for that we can go here just to the physical render engine and check on motion blur. And then we get something that looks really nice. And I have done this here before, of course. And it mixes everything in one single step. If the alpha channel is done very nicely, and maybe you use one more or many more spheres with different distances to each object, then depth of field or shallow depth of field would work here as well. Can you see here the plane? Can you see here the motion blur? How nicely it is mixing with the motion blur of the tree. Of course, the tree has motion blur based on the camera movement, and the plane is motion blurred based on camera movement and its own movement. Everything nicely mixed, perfectly done in one step. Very nice. And that is exactly why I like this technology so much. It's fast, it's easy, and you can change it very fast because it's just an image. You can even cut this tree here in parts and have the plane maybe fly through the tree if you like. If you want to know more about this and how to get here the shadow on it, that's in the chat making of series, of course. Thanks for listening. Have fun with it. Bye bye.